पाकिस्तान भारत पर बड़ा हमला कर सकता है। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने उन्हें साफ शब्दों में बताया था कि यदि ऐसा होता है तो भारत पाकिस्तान को उससे भी बड़ा जवाब देगा। 9-10 मई की रात को पाकिस्तान के हमले का भारत ने बहुत सशक्त जवाब दिया और पाकिस्तान की सेना को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचाया। उसके मिलिट्री एयर बेसिस को इनऑपरेबल बना दिया। भारत के मुंहतोड़ जवाब के कारण पाकिस्तान को भारत से सैन्य कार्रवाई रोकने का आग्रह करना पड़ा। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि इस पूरे घटनाक्रम के दौरान कभी भी किसी भी स्तर पर भारत अमेरिका ट्रेड डील या अमेरिका द्वारा भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच मध्यस्थता जैसे विषयों पर बात नहीं हुई थी। सैन्य कार्रवाई रोकने की बात सीधे भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच दोनों सेनाओं की एग्जिस्टिंग चैनल्स के माध्यम से हुई थी और पाकिस्तान के ही आग्रह पर हुई थी। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने जोर देकर कहा कि भारत ने न तो कभी मध्यस्थता स्वीकार की थी, न करता है और न ही कभी करेगा। इस विषय पर भारत में पूर्ण रूप से राजनीतिक एकमत है। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने प्रधानमंत्री द्वारा विस्तार में बताई गई बातों को समझा और आतंकवाद के खिलाफ भारत की लड़ाई के प्रति समर्थन व्यक्त किया। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने यह भी कहा कि भारत अब आतंकवाद को प्रॉक्सी वॉर नहीं, युद्ध के रूप में ही देखता है और भारत का ऑपरेशन सिंदूर अभी भी जारी है। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने प्रधानमंत्री मोदी से पूछा कि क्या वे कनाडा से वापसी में अमेरिका रुक कर जा सकते हैं। पूर्व निर्धारित कार्यक्रमों के कारण प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने अपनी असमर्थता व्यक्त की। दोनों लीडर्स ने तब तय किया कि वे निकट भविष्य में मिलने का प्रयास करेंगे। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप और प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने इजरायल ईरान के बीच चल रहे संघर्ष पर भी चर्चा की।
आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
विमल में गुलिस्तां के ये कुछ लजीज फरिश्ते जब साथ घुले तो जी ललचाए और दिल कहे कि स्वाद की जुबां में खुद को ऐसे डुबाऊं कि निकल ना पाऊं। विमल की जुबां कुछ है ही ऐसी, मानते हैं? विमल, बोलो जुबां कैसी?
You just posted right before we took off that you're not leaving because of a ceasefire. Why are you? Can you elaborate?
Getting better than ceasefire. We're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say I was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel, nice guy, but he doesn't get it right too often. But we're not looking. We're looking for better than a ceasefire.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
And then a real end, not a ceasefire. And then
So something that will be permanent.
or giving up entirely.
Is
That's
that
okay too.
Are you close there? Is that possible? Is that possible in the next 24?
Why not? Certainly possible. Complete give up. That's possible, yeah. Doing pretty well. Right now we're doing pretty well. Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. You know, we don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon.
What was the thinking on the call for Tehran to evacuate? Is there a threat or is there incoming? What was the thinking on the whole evacuation?
I want people to be safe. And that's always possible. A thing like that could happen. I just want people to be safe. We have great people that know how to protect themselves.
And when you say better, what?
Oh, we'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard that the gloves are off so beautifully. Now, I think they know not to touch our troops.
And are you open to negotiating with the Iranians right now, or do you want to wait?
I don't know. I've been negotiating. I told them to do the deal. They should have done the deal. Their cities have been blown to pieces. Have lost a lot of people. They should have done the deal. I told them do the deal. So I don't know. I'm not too much in the mood to negotiate.
Yeah, you posted.
Yeah, I think it's safe. There's a lot of bad things happening. I think it's safer for them to evacuate.
The Iran-Israel conflict has flared up in earnest. What we saw initially was the good cop, bad cop routine, in which the United States was playing the good cop by engaging Iran in talks, and all the while Israel was giving threats of taking military action, strong military action, to destroy the nascent Iranian nuclear capability. In fact, this good cop, bad cop routine was used to achieve surprise. Iran thought that one day before the talks were scheduled between America and Iran, Israel would not strike, but it did. And it caught a lot of the top Iranian military leadership together, huddled in conferences, etc., and was able to do a fair amount of damage. So far, what has the Israeli strategy been? The Israeli strategy has been to carry out a surgical strike against Iran's nuclear capability, nascent nuclear capability. To that extent, it has hit Natanz, the nuclear enrichment site. It has hit many weapon fabrication laboratories and other experimental laboratories close by around Tehran complex. It has also primarily hit at command and control targets. It has eliminated a large number of Iranian senior military officials, which include the head of the IRGC, the head of the Iranian army, head of the Iranian Air Force, and their chief of intelligence. Now, these are very severe losses in terms of leadership. Command and control attrition has been highly effective, to the extent that Iran has now ordered that none of its top commanders will be carrying mobiles, because they have been tracked through their mobiles and hit with great amount of precision. To start with, the Israelis had...
Israel wants US to enter. Trump threatens Ayatollah. Is the conflict of West Asia ready for a third entrant? Day 6 of escalation, regime change operation in motion, debating tonight at 9 p.m.
Time at any point, if we come to the conclusion that United States is directly involved in attacks against Iran, we will start responding to United States.
Iran's ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva says if US intervenes, Iran will respond. Fresh footage from Israel-Iran conflict show the elimination of terrorist cell in Jabalia. West Asia remains on the edge. Republic reports from damaged, destructed areas in Tel Aviv. After multiple technical snags, Air India has now ordered to reduce flight operations by 30%.
Pakistan's attempt to mischaracterize Operation Sindoor, our precise and proportionate response as military aggression, is unconscionable. When a state harbors terrorists who massacre innocents, defensive action is not just a right, it is a solemn duty.
And Indian diplomat Kshitij Tyagi slams Pakistan at UN Human Rights Council, says when a state harbors terrorists, defense action is not just a right but a solemn duty. Good evening, welcome to Republic. Our top focus is going to be on the West Asian escalating conflict. Iran's Supreme Leader Imam Khomeini has now threatened the United States. Washington must know that we will not surrender and that any American attack will have dire and irreparable consequences. Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei also says any US military intervention will undoubtedly cost the Americans irreversible harm. These are words from Iran's Supreme Leader. We're also going to be joined on our show by guests who will be joining us. I have Nikita Mentkovich, Director of the Eurasia Analytical Club, joining us in Russia, joining us from Moscow. We're also going to be joined by former Israeli government spokesperson. I'm going to first go across to Nikita to understand what this really means and the challenges that Khamenei is also going to be making. It's very clear, Nikita, that these are words that are coming out from the Iran Supreme Leader, but he's also going to be having to face the fact that there is an absence of experienced military leadership, increasingly because of the attacks that has been felt in Iran. Several of the top commanders have been confirmed dead. And himself, Ayatollah Khamenei, now known for his stubborn approach, ruled Iran for 36 years, going to be seen as on the back foot with less experienced leaders with him.
Let's start with one fact. We shouldn't speak about leaders or regime. Iran is under aggression, committed by Israel, supported by United States. They kill civilians, they attack nuclear objects, factories, they kill a lot of people in Iran. It's unprovoked and unreasonable aggression against the independent country. Of course, Iran is trying to fight back against Israel aggression and mentioned that if United States will openly join this terrorist attack against independent country, Iran is going to answer. Now it's up to United States. Are they ready to support one more aggression against country which doesn't want to be a colony of United States? Or they will leave this conflict? In fact, we see in your air a lot of information from the position of Israel. But we should remember, this is a country aggressor. It started the war. Israel is the country which is actually running illegal nuclear program. But it's okay for United States.
Okay, I also want to know across to the other guests, Mr. Mentkovich, who's joining us now. Eylon Levy, former Israeli government spokesperson, now with us. Eylon, how are we supposed to look at it? We're also now being told that Iran is giving out a warning to America. Increasingly, it seems President Trump's social media words are clear that there could be some sort of an involvement of America in this escalation in Western Asia. How are you looking at it?
Indeed, the Iranian regime is directly threatening the United States in order to protect its illegal nuclear weapons program. In the last few days, we've seen Israel embarking on a campaign of self-defense against the Iranian regime that repeatedly calls for Israel's destruction and was on the cusp of building nuclear weapons. And in the last few days, we've seen astonishing successes by Israel to cut down Iran's ballistic missiles, to cut down its nuclear weapons capability. And now the United States is considering getting involved, and the Iranian regime is directly threatening it. Obviously, if the Iranian regime chooses to attack the United States, that would be a very big mistake.
Go ahead, Mr. Levy.
Well, it would be a terrible mistake for the Iranian regime to attack the United States, because the United States would be able to deliver the death blow to the Iranian nuclear weapons program and to the regime itself. The regime is getting desperate. This is not the war it was expecting to fight. The regime surrounded Israel with a network of proxy armies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, in order to destabilize the Middle East and advance their vision of destroying the state of Israel. That war of aggression that the Iranian regime has been waging through its proxies has backfired terribly, and Israel is now taking action to protect the world from the possibility of an Iranian nuclear bomb, which would destabilize not only West Asia, but the whole world.
Okay, now I also want to ask you, Mr. Levy, you mentioned about how the pounding has also been given to Iran. In fact, we've also seen the ripple effects are not only confined to Iran's borders. Khomeini's regional alliance, that is the axis of resistance that was there. Hezbollah's chief, Nasrallah, an ally of Khomeini, was last year killed in an Israeli airstrike. In December, the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was ousted. How are you looking at this particular crisis, this escalating conflict panning out for the entire West Asian region?
But what we're seeing now is the Israel-Iran phase of the October 7th war. The Iranian axis declared war on Israel on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas invaded and committed those terrible atrocities against Israeli civilians. Iran's other proxy armies joined in, Hezbollah from Lebanon, the Houthis from Yemen, and Israel has, to a large extent, defeated them. And now Israel is holding Iran directly to account for its regional aggression. The Iranian regime expected that it could use those proxy armies that had destabilized the Middle East and sown chaos in the region in order to protect its nuclear weapons program. But Hamas has been thrashed, Hezbollah has been defeated, the Houthis are only able to fire one ballistic missile every day, and the Assad regime has fallen, and the Iranian regime now finds itself completely alone. What we're looking at now is not the beginning of a conflict, it's the end of a conflict, as the Iranian regime is made to pay the price for the aggression that it has committed against Israel through proxy armies that have sown chaos and destruction in Western Asia.
I also want to ask you, Iran has vowed retaliation, has already launched missiles. How is Israel preparing for this broader conflict?
Israel is prioritizing degrading the Iranian regime's ability to continue waging its war of aggression. Israel is focusing now on killing the leaders of the Iranian military, on taking out the launchers of the ballistic missiles, attacking the missiles themselves so that Iran cannot respond. On the first night, the Iranian regime wanted to fire 1,000 ballistic missiles at Israeli cities. They only managed about 200 because Israel destroyed the launchers. Israel has destroyed around half of Iran's ballistic missile launchers so that it cannot rain rockets directly at Israeli cities and continue killing Israeli civilians.
All right. Eilon Levy, thank you for joining us for that perspective. It's a top focus we'll continuously track right here on Republic TV. Viewers, we're now going to show you ground reports coming in from our colleague Nick Colathon. He's been around Tel Aviv. He's been showing us the devastation from disturbing sites where he's visited, and he's also showing us how there has been a lot of damage also in Tel Aviv, meanwhile also giving us a perspective. Take a look.
Here behind me you can see the residential area in the center of Israel, and one of the ballistic missiles of Iran targeted this area where there is a schools, kindergartens, many residential buildings, and see what a huge hole just one rocket did. You can see the impact just of one rocket. See how big is that? And there are 10 buses here which were completely destroyed by this rocket. And in those buses, each morning, children are taken to the school, and you can see it is completely destroyed. You can see the destruction. And if the children was here now, they probably all would be dead. And this is what Iran is doing. They are targeting those kind of places where residential places are, where there's so many infrastructure, public places, regular people are living here. And you can see the destruction, how many of the buses were destroyed completely. And now some Jewish Orthodox Jews came here to cheer up the people of Israel. They probably want to say to them that God with us, with Israel, this is the promised land. And Israel will prevail. And you can see what a huge damage to all those buses, 10 buses, each of them with about 70 or even more places. And those buses at this hour when the rockets strike, usually taking children to the kindergartens and to the schools. But because Israel declared a military situation, emergency situation, the kindergarten, schools and workplaces are not open, and that's why there were no one here, no children. And this is a miracle that no one was killed from this ballistic attack by Iran. But you can understand what a huge disaster that could be. Nicole Yochin, center of Israel.
And viewers, we're also now going to tell you an unthinkable praise from Pakistan's parliament. A sitting MP admits that Uttar Pradesh, an Indian state, is economically stronger than Pakistan itself. The comparison isn't just startling, it's a humiliation for Islamabad and a big nod to the Yogi model of governance.
A stunning admission has rocked the Pakistani parliament. A sitting MP has praised Uttar Pradesh's economy, saying it's in better shape than Pakistan's entire nation. In a video now viral on social media, the MP says Pakistan's total budget is $62 billion, while Uttar Pradesh alone has a budget of $97 billion.
ये मैं आपको कुछ फैक्ट फिगर देता हूं। पाकिस्तान का टोटल बजट आउटले हमारा 62 बिलियन है, जबकि इंडिया 50 स्टेट से एक स्टेट का बजट आउटले उत्तर प्रदेश का 97 बिलियन है। हमारा टोटल टैक्स रेवेन्यू 50 बिलियन, रेवेन्यू 50 बिलियन, जबकि उत्तर प्रदेश का 80 बिलियन। हमारा टैक्स रेवेन्यू उनके टैक्स रेवेन्यू से 16 बिलियन कम है।
And there's breaking news that's coming in. There's chaos at the Vadodara airport. The Air India flight delayed has now caused this uproar. We're now being told the staff said the flight was delayed due to a technical fault. Later it was said to be a temperature issue, though the pilot said it was another flight. Passengers frustrated by repeatedly getting different reasons from the Air India officials. Passengers fought with the staff. The flight, scheduled for 7 a.m., started very late. I'm going to try and go across to Gopi to give us more details. Let's listen into those voices coming from the Vadodara airport.
They are not boarded. They are at the gate. They are at the gate. They are not boarded. They are cheating us.
और अभी तो बोर्ड कराओगे भी तो कोई फायदा है नहीं। आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू स्टार्ट हो गया सर।
Gopi is joining us live to give us more details on this. Gopi, there's chaos at the airport. Give us details about what happened.
Well, in fact, it has become a pattern since past few weeks now with Air India. We have seen yesterday it was at the Ahmedabad airport, while today we are seeing these visuals from the Vadodara airport. This flight was in fact going from Vadodara to Delhi, and there was utter chaos at the airport. 3 different reasons were given behind the delay of this Air India aircraft. One of the airport officials was saying that there was a technical snag, while the other person was saying that there was some other reason, while the pilot denied, saying that it was not this aircraft but some other aircraft. We have been seeing from those visuals how all the passengers were frustrated and they were raising their voice towards the delay, while the flight was delayed for over 3.5 to 4 hours. Let's tell our viewers that this has been repeatedly happening at almost every airport every other day, and it has become a pattern with Air India. Back to you.
Thank you, Gopi, for giving us those details. There are no reasons given to passengers. Another Air India flight is delayed. A fierce political face-off has erupted over Prime Minister Modi's call with US President Donald Trump. Congress leader Jairam Ramesh hits out at the government, citing a triple jhatka to India's foreign policy.
Congress leader Jairam Ramesh has slammed Prime Minister Modi, calling recent diplomatic developments a triple jhatka to India's foreign policy. He flagged Pakistan Field Marshal Asim Munir's invitation for a one-on-one lunch with US President Trump, despite Munir's alleged links to the Pahalgam terror attack. Ramesh called it a setback to Indian diplomacy and questioned the Modi government's silence on the issue.
जो राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप के नोट में है और जो हमारे विदेश सचिव के नोट में है, ये जमीन आसमान का फर्क है। तो हम चाहते हैं, देखिए प्रधानमंत्री जी, आपने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप से बात की और आप कह रहे हैं मैंने ये कहा वो कहा, आप एक सर्वदलीय बैठक क्यों नहीं बुलाते?
Meanwhile, the Trump-Modi call seems to have armed the BJP leaders. Attacking the Congress, BJP said Congress's lies have been exposed.
I don't want to dignify the Congress party's ongoing, hallucinatory, I would call it hallucinatory fake narratives that they go and put on. But through all this I get the feeling, Suchitra ji, that they're always looking for some way in which they can show India down.
मोदी जी ने साफ कर दिया कि इस पूरे ऑपरेशन के दौरान कहीं पर भी ट्रेड का कोई जिक्र नहीं हुआ। इसका मतलब कांग्रेस पार्टी लगातार भारत की सेना के पराक्रम को, भारत की कूटनीतिक पराक्रम को नीचा करवाने के लिए, पाकिस्तान के नैरेटिव को मजबूत करने के लिए और भारत की सेना के मनोबल को तोड़ने के लिए झूठ का इस्तेमाल कर रही थी।
Meanwhile, Congress leader also demanded a debate in the parliament and an all-party meeting to showcase unity and solidarity over the issue.
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
Hi, this is Chef Ranveer Brar. Guarantee you brilliance on behalf of IAHM.
इसको घर पे लगाओगे तो शादी का तो पता नहीं, पर घर पक्का नहीं टूटेगा।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
पहाड़ों में एक हाइकिंग शिप भी बन सकती है।
Hami Hanana.
جمهوری اسلامی به پایان خود رسیده و در حال سقوط است. خامنه‌ای همچون موشی هراسان زیر زمین پنهان شده و کنترل اوضاع را از دست داده است. آنچه آغاز شده برگشت ناپذیر است. آینده روشن است و ما با هم از این پیچ تند تاریخ عبور خواهیم کرد. در این روزهای دشوار دل من با همه شهروندان بی‌دفاعی است که آسیب دیدند و قربانی جنگ طلبی و توهمات خامنه‌ای شدند. من سالها کوشیدم تا میهنمان گرفتار آتش جنگ نشود. پایان جمهوری اسلامی، پایان جنگ
आपकी फेवरेट हुंडई कार्स पर मिल रही है अमेजिंग डील्स। वैसे लोगे तो आप हुंडई ही, चाहे दिल की सुनो या डील्स की, तो जल्दी चले आओ हुंडई शोरूम।
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
विमल में गुलिस्तां की ये कुछ लजीज फरिश्ते जब साथ घुले तो जी ललचाए और दिल कहे कि स्वाद की इस जुबां में खुद को ऐसा डुबाऊं कि निकल ना पाऊं। विमल की जुबान कुछ है ही ऐसी, मानते हैं ना? विमल, बोलो जुबां केसरी।
همیهنانم، جمهوری اسلامی به پایان خود رسیده و در حال سقوط است. خامنه‌ای همچون موشی هراسان زیر زمین پنهان شده و کنترل اوضاع را از دست داده است. آنچه آغاز شده برگشت ناپذیر است. آینده روشن است و ما با هم از این پیچ تند تاریخ عبور خواهیم کرد. در این روزهای دشوار دل من با همه شهروندان بی‌دفاعی است که آسیب دیدند و قربانی جنگ طلبی و توهمات خامنه‌ای شدند. من سالها کوشیدم تا میهنمان گرفتار آتش جنگ نشود. پایان جمهوری اسلامی، پایان جنگ 46 ساله آن با ملت ایران است. دستگاه سرکوب رژیم در حال فروپاشی است. تنها یک خیزش همگانی لازم است تا این کابوس برای همیشه پایان یابد. اکنون زمان ایستادن است. زمان بازپسگیری ایران. همه با هم، از بندر عباس تا بندر انزلی، از شیراز تا اصفهان، از تبریز تا زاهدان، از مشهد تا اهواز، از شهر کرد تا کرمانشاه به صحنه بیاییم. پایان این رژیم را رقم بزنیم. نگران فردای پس از سقوط جمهوری اسلامی نباشید. ایران دچار جنگ داخلی و بی‌ثباتی نخواهد شد. ما برای آینده ایران و شکوفایی‌اش برنامه داریم. ما برای 100 روز نخست پس از سقوط، دوران گذار و استقرار یک حکومت ملی و دموکراتیک برای ملت ایران و به دست ملت ایران آماده ایم. خطاب به نیروهای نظامی و انتظامی، امنیتی و دولتی که این روزها بسیاری از آنها به من پیام می‌فرستند. برای حفظ رژیمی که سقوط
You can see one of the targets of the Iranian missiles, but all of them, as you can see, are completely destroyed just from one ballistic missile. You see, this is what happened from one ballistic missile that Iran shot towards Israel. This is what Iran doing. They are striking civilian residential areas all across Israel.
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hello and welcome. You're watching 6 Stories at 6. Let's quickly take you across the 6 agenda-setting stories of the day that we're tracking at this edition. It's day 6 of Israel-Iran conflict and unending escalation, which has no end in sight as yet. And as West Asia remains on the edge, Republic reports from Tel Aviv in Israel. We get to that live reportage on what's happening at ground zero. The crisis that Air India is going through is only aggravating. Passengers have been completely stranded at airports, and the latest visual that we've got today is from the Vadodara airport. Meanwhile, India has set the record straight, calling out Trump's bluff on India-Pakistan ceasefire. We'll get to the full statement of the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. Also on the show is India's sharp takedown of Pakistan at the UNHRC, a rebuke that you just cannot miss. And finally, the headline that we are tracking on this broadcast is Justice Yashwant Verma's case, in which where he is in the eye of the storm of India's biggest judicial scandal and has refused to step down. These are the 6 stories that we are tracking on this edition. But starting first up with the top focus story. Now, the war between Israel and Iran entered a dangerous new phase, now in its 6th day. Both nations are relentlessly expanding their attacks, with missile strikes and airstrikes intensifying across the region. In a bold move, Iran has unleashed its advanced hypersonic missile at Israel, claiming a breach of the country's formidable defense system. Meanwhile, Israel strikes back with precision, targeting Iran's most critical military infrastructure. It is therefore a tit-for-tat strike. Here are all the updates. Take a look.
The deadly conflict between Israel and Iran has now entered its 6th day, with escalating attacks on both the sides. Iran has claimed that it has arrested a Mossad agent. This latest round of violence has intensified the already volatile situation, as both nations exchange airstrikes and missile barrages with growing fury. In the early hours of Wednesday, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, claims to have launched advanced Fateh-1 hypersonic missiles at Israel. Iran described the operation as a success, saying that the missiles breached Israel's much publicized air defenses. Iran's hypersonic missile strike on Tel Aviv marks a bold escalation, But despite Tehran's claims, Israel's military superiority remains undeniable. Not taking the onslaught lying down, Israel's Air Force has responded with calculated precision and power, carrying out multiple airstrikes on Iranian military facilities, including weapon production sites and key infrastructure. Over the course of this brutal conflict, Israel's military has systematically destroyed key Iranian military assets, nuclear encroachment sites, missile production facilities, and terror-linked infrastructure. While Tehran boasts of its missile advances, it is Israel's superior defense capabilities that have kept civilians safe, protecting critical targets and ensuring minimal damage. The United States has firmly backed Israel, with President Donald Trump demanding Iran's unconditional surrender. Iran's leadership, however, continues to spin narratives, claiming dominance in the skies over Israel. The IRGC insists that the Fateh missile launch has proven Israel's air defenses are now obsolete. But these boasts stand in stark contrast to the reality on ground, where Israel's high-tech defense systems have proven more than capable of neutralizing Iranian threat time and time again. As tensions continue to simmer, thousands of civilians have been evacuated from high-risk areas, and Israel's Iron Dome continues to protect homes, schools, and hospitals from the deadly barrage of missiles launched by Iran. As Israel continues to defend itself against Iran's provocations, the world watches closely. The conflict is far from over, but one thing remains crystal clear: Israel will not be intimidated.
Now, in a live address, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei has said that Iran stands united and will not surrender. Now, in his statement, which comes after the United States President Donald Trump's call for the country to surrender, Khamenei warned that any United States strike or intervention will have serious, irrepressible consequences. Now, Tehran has claimed that they have fired hypersonic Fateh-1 missiles at Israel in the latest round of overnight strikes. The United States President insisted Washington has played no role in Israel's bombing campaign, but also warned Iran that this patience is wearing thin. The Israeli military also said that 2 barrages of Iranian missiles were launched towards Israel in the first 2 hours of Wednesday morning. Explosions were heard over Tel Aviv as well, and this happened, remember, just overnight. In fact, Nick is joining us live from Tel Aviv in Israel. Nick, yesterday, Iran had launched a barrage of ballistic missiles. We learned that they were fired in a wave of 2, one of 15 and the other of 10 rounds of ballistic missile. What is the situation like right now on the ground? Because as far as you got us reports from yesterday, there was huge damage and destruction that was seen. Was it more severe than what it was yesterday? And has Israel intercepted those missiles?
So, yesterday night, actually, the barrage was smaller than the days before. And this time, Israel intercepted all of the missiles almost. And there was no too much damage this time. And I think this is because Israel now in a good position controlling the airspace of Iran, and they can intercept the missile launchers in Iran. That's why for Iran now it's much more complicated to launch attacks against Israel. And they are doing it from places that they are not used. They are on the run. They are doing it not as they planned before. And that's why now in Israel, as you can see behind me, this is a shopping mall. And the regular life is a little bit coming back in Israel. The new regulation that is starting in the coming hours, saying that Israelis can come back to workplaces. They can gather even in closed places. 100 people can be in one place.
outside around 50 people, and all the places, shops where there is bomb shelters next to them that you can reach them on time also can work. And the flights in and from Israel are starting to return. Now the flights are for those who are stuck abroad. Many Israelis want to come back to Israel, but they can't do that since the night between the 12th and the 13th of these months. And now, slowly, they will be able to come back. The Israeli air flight, the national flagship El Al, even will use some ships because Israel have the Mediterranean Sea.
Right,
and
Nick.
with those rented ships, they will also bring some Israelis back to Israel.
Right, Nick. Thank you very much for getting us those details. We will keep coming back to you as and when there are more updates in the story. But for now, we move on and shift our focus to the other stories that we're tracking on this edition of 6 Stories at 6. Air India is in a huge crisis yet again. We got you incidents where time and again, due to engine failure or technical snags, there were delays in the flight. Another incident similar to this has surfaced once again today. Now, this incident that we're going to talk about happened at the Vadodara airport. Now, the visuals that you see on your screens right now are from the Vadodara airport, where chaos erupted after delayed Air India flight, sparking an uproar among passengers. The staff initially cited a technical fault as the reason for the delay, but later attributed it to temperature issue. However, the pilot's explanation contradicted these claims, saying it was related to another flight. This inconsistency led to widespread frustration among passengers who were already upset due to the flight's significant delay. The situation escalated with passengers clashing with Air India staff. These incidents, remember, ladies and gentlemen, highlight the challenges that are faced by Air India in maintaining its flight schedules and ensuring that passengers' satisfaction is supreme and is at the priority. Here's what happened at the Vadodara airport today.
They are not boarded. They are at the gate. They are at the gate. They are not boarded. They are cheating us.
पागल समझना पड़ेगा यार। 5 दिन पहले तुम्हारा एक एयरक्राफ्ट गिर जाता है, कल तुम्हारे सेम का एयरक्राफ्ट में इशू आता है, तुम्हें लगता है वैसे ही बोर्ड कर लेंगे इसको? और अभी तुम बोर्ड कराओगे भी तो कोई फायदा है नहीं। आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू लैंड बाय दैट क्लोज एयरपोर्ट। स्टार्ट हो गया सर।
टेक्निकल का आप 3 घंटे से टेक्निकल और पायलट की पत्थर ठोक रहे हो। 3 घंटे से
पहले हमारे आगे अंदर जाना।
आप बताओ कि ये पायलट है उड़ाने वाला, बस देन यू स्टार्ट बोर्डिंग।
वापस नहीं लेके आएंगे।
इंजीनियर को बुलाइए ना, यू शुड कॉल इंजीनियर।
Moving on now, days after the United States President Donald Trump claimed that he brokered the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, setting the record straight today was Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri today in an address said that India had made it amply clear to the United States President Donald Trump during a phone call that the United States had no role in brokering the ceasefire between India and Pakistan last month, and that there was no discussion on a United States-India trade deal during the hostilities. Shedding light on the 35-minute conversation which came at Trump's request, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said, and I quote, Prime Minister Modi clearly told President Trump that during the entire course of events, at no point and at no level was there any discussion about United States-India trade deal or about United States mediation between India and Pakistan. Listen into this.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बारे में विस्तार से बात की। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि 22 अप्रैल के बाद भारत ने आतंकवाद के खिलाफ कार्रवाई करने का अपना दृढ़ संकल्प पूरी दुनिया को बता दिया था। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने कहा कि 6-7 मई की रात को भारत ने पाकिस्तान और पाकिस्तान ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर में सिर्फ आतंकी ठिकानों को ही निशाना बनाया था। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि इस पूरे घटनाक्रम के दौरान कभी भी किसी भी स्तर पर भारत अमेरिका ट्रेड डील या अमेरिका द्वारा भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच मध्यस्थता जैसे विषयों पर बात नहीं हुई थी। सैन्य कार्रवाई रोकने की बात सीधे भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच दोनों सेनाओं की एग्जिस्टिंग चैनल्स के माध्यम से हुई थी और पाकिस्तान के ही आग्रह पर हुई थी। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने जोर देकर कहा कि भारत ने न तो कभी मध्यस्थता स्वीकार की थी, न करता है और न ही कभी करेगा। इस विषय पर भारत में पूर्ण रूप से राजनीतिक एकमत है। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने प्रधानमंत्री द्वारा विस्तार में बताई गई बातों को समझा और आतंकवाद के खिलाफ भारत की लड़ाई के प्रति समर्थन व्यक्त किया।
Indian diplomat Kshitij Tyagi delivered a scathing rebuke to Pakistan at the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, condemning its alleged support for terrorism and misuse of the Indus Water Treaty. Now, Tyagi asserted that when a state harbors terrorists, defensive action is not just a right, but a solemn duty, emphasizing India's stance on self-defense, where he was referring to Operation Sindoor. Listen in to the strong takedown of Pakistan by India at the UNHRC.
On 22nd April 2025, Pakistani terrorists turned a serene sanctuary in Jammu and Kashmir into a killing field, carrying out a barbaric execution of 26 Indian tourists in Pahalgam in front of their families. The UN Security Council rightly condemned this reprehensible act of terrorism and called for all perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors to be held accountable. And we all know that those sponsors operate from Pakistani soil. Pakistan's attempt to mischaracterize Operation Sindoor, our precise and proportionate response, as military aggression is unconscionable. When a state harbors terrorists who massacre innocents, defensive action is not just a right, it is a solemn duty. From hosting Osama bin Laden in its military cantonment to conducting state funerals for globally sanctioned terrorists, Pakistan never fails to disappoint. It claims victimhood while remaining the acknowledged epicenter of jihadist terror. On the Indus Water Treaty, despite India's steadfast adherence for over 6 decades, Pakistan has misused the treaty's procedures to obstruct India's legitimate projects, while shredding its spirit through sustained hostility and cross-border terror. The world has changed since 1960. Climate imperatives, technological advances, clean energy needs, and Pakistan's persistent sponsorship of terror compel a reassessment. When a nation violates the foundation of a treaty, it forfeits the right to invoke its protections. Madam Vice President, a nation cannot sow terror and expect to reap sympathy. The world sees through Pakistan's theatre of deception. India will continue to act with responsibility and resolve to protect its citizens, its sovereignty, and its values, as any nation must.
And with that, we have come to the last story of this edition of 6 Stories at 6. Ladies and gentlemen, Justice Yashwant Verma, the same man who was in the eye of the storm for India's biggest judicial scandal. Remember, just days back, just weeks back, there was a charred cash unaccounted that was found at his residence. Soon after, a probe was launched, after which there was an attempt to make him step down. It was referred to the president as well. But today, Justice Yashwant Verma has called the probe against him a fraud. He says that the probe is biased and that he will not step down. Here's the full story that you need to know about India's biggest judicial scandal, which has taken a new turn.
In the latest development in the biggest judicial scandal, the man in the eye of storm, Justice Yashwant Verma, remains defiant, refusing to step down. He described the probe as fundamentally unjust and refuses to step down or opt for an early retirement. A letter written to former Chief Justice of India Sanjeev Khanna on May 6th has now surfaced. In the letter, he strongly criticized the process, asserting that he was not given a proper opportunity to address the allegations. He has said that stepping down would mean accepting a fundamentally unjust process that denied him even a personal hearing. The The controversy started during when firefighters discovered charred cash from his residence after they were called to extinguish a fire. In response to this, the Supreme Court has decided to transfer Justice Verma back to his parent court, the Allahabad High Court. Justice Verma also raised serious concerns over the lack of procedural fairness, stating that the in-house committee did not provide him a personal hearing or share its preliminary findings.
And that was all that we could pack in this edition of 6 Stories at 6. Thank you very much for watching. We will be back tomorrow, same time, with more agenda-setting news. Till then, stay tuned. Coming up next after the break is Live and Breaking.
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
विमल में गुलिस्तां की ये कुछ लजीज फरिश्ते जब साथ घुले तो जी ललचाए और दिल कहे कि स्वाद की इस जुबान में खुद को ऐसा डुबाऊं कि निकल ना पाऊं। विमल की जुबान कुछ है ही ऐसी, मानते हैं ना? विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
MDH की देगी मिर्च,
देगी मिर्च का तड़का, अंग अंग फड़का।
MDH की देगी मिर्च।
You just posted right before we took off that you're not leaving because of a ceasefire. Why are you? Can you elaborate?
Get better than ceasefire. We're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say I was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel, nice guy, but he doesn't get it right too often. But we're not looking. We're looking for better than a ceasefire.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
An end, a real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that will be permanent.
Or giving up entirely.
Is that okay too? Are you close there? Is that possible in the next 24?
Why not? Certainly possible. Complete give up. That's possible, yeah. Doing pretty well. Right now we're doing pretty well. Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. We don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon.
What was the thinking on the call for Tehran to evacuate? Is there a threat or is there incoming? What was the thinking on the full evacuation?
I want people to be safe. And that's always possible. A thing like that could happen. I just want people to be safe. You have great people that know how to protect themselves.
And when you say better,
we'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard. Then the gloves are off so beautifully. Now, I think they know not to touch our troops.
Are you open to negotiating with the Iranians right now, or do you want to wait?
I don't know. I've been negotiating. I told them to do the deal. They should have done the deal. Their cities have been blown to pieces. They've lost a lot of people. They should have done the deal. I told them do the deal. So I don't know. I'm not too much in a mood to negotiate.
Yeah, you posted.
Yeah, I think it's safe. There's a lot of bad things happening. I think it's safer for them to evacuate.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी और राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप की मुलाकात G7 समिट की साइडलाइंस पर होनी तय थी। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को जल्दी वापस अमेरिका लौटना पड़ा, जिसके कारण ये मुलाकात नहीं हो पाई। इसके बाद राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप के आग्रह पर आज दोनों लीडर्स की फोन पर बात हुई। बातचीत लगभग 35 मिनट चली। 22 अप्रैल को पहलगाम आतंकी हमले के बाद राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने फोन पर प्रधानमंत्री मोदी को शोक संवेदना प्रकट की थी और आतंक के खिलाफ समर्थन व्यक्त किया था। उसके बाद दोनों लीडर्स की ये पहली बातचीत थी। इसलिए प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बारे में विस्तार से बात की। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि 22 अप्रैल के बाद भारत ने आतंकवाद के खिलाफ कार्रवाई करने का अपना दृढ़ संकल्प पूरी दुनिया को बता दिया था। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने कहा कि 6-7 मई की रात को भारत ने पाकिस्तान और पाकिस्तान ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर में सिर्फ आतंकी ठिकानों को ही निशाना बनाया था। भारत के एक्शन बहुत ही मेजर्ड, प्रिसाइस और नॉन एस्केलेटरी थे। साथ ही भारत ने यह भी स्पष्ट कर दिया था कि पाकिस्तान की गोली का जवाब भारत गोले से देगा। 9 मई की रात को उपराष्ट्रपति वैंस ने प्रधानमंत्री मोदी को फोन किया था। उपराष्ट्रपति वैंस ने कहा था कि पाकिस्तान भारत पर बड़ा हमला कर सकता है। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने उन्हें साफ शब्दों में बताया था कि यदि ऐसा होता है तो भारत पाकिस्तान को उससे भी बड़ा जवाब देगा। 9-10 मई की रात को पाकिस्तान के हमले का भारत ने बहुत सशक्त जवाब दिया और पाकिस्तान की सेना को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचाया। उसके मिलिट्री एयर बेसिस को इनऑपरेबल बना दिया। भारत के मुंहतोड़ जवाब के कारण पाकिस्तान को भारत से सैन्य कार्रवाई रोकने का आग्रह करना पड़ा। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि इस पूरे घटनाक्रम के दौरान कभी भी किसी भी स्तर पर भारत अमेरिका ट्रेड डील या अमेरिका द्वारा भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच मध्यस्थता जैसे विषयों पर बात नहीं हुई थी। सैन्य कार्रवाई रोकने की बात सीधे भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच दोनों सेनाओं की एग्जिस्टिंग चैनल्स के माध्यम से हुई थी और पाकिस्तान के ही आग्रह।
Israel wants US to enter. Trump threatens Ayatollah. Is the conflict of West Asia ready for a third entrant? Day 6 of escalation, regime change operation in motion, debating tonight at 9 p.m.
आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
Hi, this is Chef Ranveer Brar. Guarantee you brilliance on behalf of IAHM.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी और राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप की मुलाकात G7 समिट की साइडलाइंस पर होनी तय थी। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को जल्दी वापस अमेरिका लौटना पड़ा, जिसके कारण ये मुलाकात नहीं हो पाई। इसके बाद राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप के आग्रह पर आज दोनों लीडर्स की फोन पर बात हुई। बातचीत लगभग 35 मिनट चली। 22 अप्रैल को पहलगाम आतंकी हमले के बाद राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने फोन पर प्रधानमंत्री मोदी को शोक संवेदना प्रकट की थी और आतंक के खिलाफ समर्थन व्यक्त किया था। उसके बाद दोनों लीडर्स की ये पहली बातचीत थी। इसलिए प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बारे में विस्तार से बात की। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि 22 अप्रैल के बाद भारत ने आतंकवाद के खिलाफ कार्रवाई करने का अपना दृढ़ संकल्प पूरी दुनिया को बता दिया था। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने कहा कि 6-7 मई की रात को भारत ने पाकिस्तान और पाकिस्तान ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर में सिर्फ आतंकी ठिकानों को ही निशाना बनाया था। भारत के एक्शन बहुत ही मेजर्ड, प्रिसाइस और नॉन एस्केलेटरी थे। साथ ही भारत ने यह भी स्पष्ट कर दिया था कि पाकिस्तान की गोली का जवाब भारत गोले से देगा। 9 मई की रात को उपराष्ट्रपति वैंस ने प्रधानमंत्री मोदी को फोन किया था। उपराष्ट्रपति वैंस ने कहा था कि पाकिस्तान भारत पर बड़ा हमला कर सकता है। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने उन्हें साफ शब्दों में बताया था कि यदि ऐसा होता है तो भारत पाकिस्तान को उससे भी बड़ा जवाब देगा। 9-10 मई की रात को पाकिस्तान के हमले का भारत ने बहुत सशक्त जवाब दिया और पाकिस्तान की सेना को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचाया। उसके मिलिट्री एयर बेसिस को इनऑपरेबल बना दिया। भारत के मुंहतोड़ जवाब के कारण पाकिस्तान को भारत से सैन्य कार्रवाई रोकने का आग्रह करना पड़ा। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि इस पूरे घटनाक्रम के दौरान कभी भी किसी भी स्तर पर भारत अमेरिका ट्रेड डील या अमेरिका द्वारा भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच मध्यस्थता जैसे विषयों पर बात नहीं हुई थी। सैन्य कार्रवाई रोकने की बात सीधे भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच दोनों सेनाओं की एग्जिस्टिंग चैनल्स के माध्यम से हुई थी और पाकिस्तान के ही आग्रह पर हुई थी। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने जोर देकर कहा कि भारत ने न तो कभी मध्यस्थता स्वीकार की थी, न करता है और न ही कभी करेगा। इस विषय पर भारत में पूर्ण रूप से राजनीतिक एकमत है। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने प्रधानमंत्री द्वारा विस्तार में बताई गई बातों को समझा और आतंकवाद के खिलाफ भारत की लड़ाई के प्रति समर्थन व्यक्त किया। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने यह भी कहा कि भारत अब आतंकवाद को प्रॉक्सी वॉर नहीं, युद्ध के रूप में ही देखता है और भारत का ऑपरेशन सिंदूर अभी भी जारी है। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने प्रधानमंत्री मोदी से पूछा कि क्या वे कनाडा से वापसी में अमेरिका रुक कर जा सकते हैं। पूर्व निर्धारित कार्यक्रमों के कारण प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने अपनी असमर्थता व्यक्त की। दोनों लीडर्स ने तब तय किया कि वे निकट भविष्य में मिलने का प्रयास करेंगे। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप और प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने इजरायल ईरान के बीच चल रहे संघर्ष पर भी चर्चा की। रूस यूक्रेन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट पर दोनों ने सहमति जताई कि जल्द से जल्द शांति के लिए दोनों पक्षों में सीधी बातचीत आवश्यक है और इसके लिए प्रयास करते रहना चाहिए। इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र के संबंध में दोनों नेताओं ने अपने परिप्रेक्ष्य साझा किए और इस क्षेत्र में क्वाड की अहम भूमिका के प्रति समर्थन जताया। क्वाड की अगली बैठक के लिए प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को भारत यात्रा का निमंत्रण दिया। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने निमंत्रण स्वीकार करते हुए कहा कि वे भारत आने के लिए उत्सुक हैं।
The Iran-Israel conflict has flared up in earnest. What we saw initially was the good cop, bad cop routine in which the United States was playing the good cop by engaging Iran in talks, and all the while Israel was giving threats of taking military action, strong military action to destroy the nascent
What is behind repeated technical snags in Air India planes? Was Air India's crashed plane safe for flight operations? Will DGCA take action on Air India's operational fleet? Debating tonight at 8 p.m.
I have seen what it takes to report from the front lines. Accuracy, courage, urgency and responsibility. At Republic School of Journalism, you will be trained for that reality. It is not theory. It is live learning from inside a working newsroom from day one. If you want to report the truth when it matters the most, Republic School of Journalism is where you begin. Course begins on the 30th of June. Apply now.
Israel wants US to enter. Trump threatens Ayatollah. Is the conflict of West Asia ready for a third entrant? Day 6 of escalation, regime change operation in motion, debating tonight at 9 p.m.
दादी के हाथों का जादू और खुशबू से महकता घर, माँ की मुस्कुराहट और खाने की सुगंध, MDH गरम मसाला,
क्योंकि हर रिश्ता है स्वाद से जुड़ा।
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
आपकी फेवरेट हुंडई कार्स पर मिल रही है अमेजिंग डील्स। वैसे लोगे तो आप हुंडई ही, चाहे दिल की सुनो या डील्स की, तो जल्दी चले आओ हुंडई शोरूम।
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
MDH
همیهنانم جمهوری اسلامی به پایان خود رسیده و در حال سقوط است. خامنه‌ای همچون موشی هراسان زیر زمین پنهان شده و کنترل اوضاع را از دست داده است. آنچه آغاز شده برگشت ناپذیر است. آینده روشن است و ما با هم از این پیچ تند تاریخ عبور خواهیم کرد. در این روزهای دشوار دل من با همه شهروندان بی‌دفاعی است که آسیب دیدند و قربانی جنگ طلبی و توهمات خامنه‌ای شدند. من سالها کوشیدم تا میهنمان گرفتار آتش جنگ نشود. پایان جمهوری اسلامی پایان جنگ 46 ساله آن با ملت ایران است. دستگاه سرکوب رژیم در حال فروپاشی است. تنها یک خیزش همگانی لازم است تا این کابوس برای همیشه پایان یابد. اکنون زمان ایستادن است. زمان بازپسگیری ایران. همه با هم، از بندر عباس تا بندر انزلی، از شیراز تا اصفهان، از تبریز تا زاهدان، از مشهد تا اهواز، از شهر کرد تا کرمانشاه به صحنه بیاییم. پایان این رژیم را رقم بزنیم. نگران فردای پس از سقوط جمهوری اسلامی نباشید. ایران دچار جنگ داخلی و بی‌ثباتی نخواهد شد. ما برای آینده ایران و شکوفایی‌اش برنامه داریم. ما برای 100 روز نخست پس از سقوط، دوران گذار و استقرار یک حکومت ملی و دموکراتیک برای ملت ایران و به دست ملت ایران آماده ایم. خطاب به نیروهای نظامی و انتظامی، امنیتی و دولتی.
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Good evening. Welcome to Republic TV. Our top focus, Prime Minister Narendra Modi greets and interacts with members of the Indian diaspora as he arrives at a hotel in Zagreb, Croatia. At the invitation of the Prime Minister of the Republic of Croatia, Prime Minister Modi paying an official visit to Croatia. Viewers, this is the first ever visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Croatia, marking an important milestone in the bilateral relationship. The visit to Croatia underscores India's commitment to further strengthening its engagement with partners in European Union. We're seeing the Prime Minister being welcomed in Croatia. We would like to go across to a natural sound of that if it's possible. Remember, Prime Minister departing for Croatia on the last leg of his 3-nation tour. I believe these are people who are speaking to Prime Minister Modi in Hindi as a part of the welcome that is being accorded to the Prime Minister in Zagreb, in Croatia. He's also being met by a welcoming dance of our Indian folklore by dancers in Croatia. They're performing. Prime Minister Modi receives a rousing welcome from the Indian diaspora in Croatia. Talk
to me.
And the breaking news coming in, the Israeli Air Force has attacked key military targets of the Iranian regime in the Tehran area. This is the big breaking news that's coming in. The Israeli Air Force currently attacking the key military targets of the Iranian regime in the Tehran area. It was also stated one of them could be where their supreme leader Khamenei could be residing, and this is the big breaking news coming in. As US says we know where Khamenei is hiding, Israeli forces launch attack on the Iran military sites. Who has been targeted has also been said. This is all coming in at a time when Iran says we are not threatened by the United States. Israel hits key sites of Ayatollah's regime. Not the first time now. It is very, very clear that this regime is getting weakened. Over the past week, we've seen a string of Israeli airstrikes wiping out more than 20 senior military commandos of Iran, weakening the top brass of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And now Israel strikes Iranian military targets in Tehran. We also know earlier the death of the IRGC Commander-in-Chief Hussein Salami, Aerospace Chief Amir Ali, Intelligence Head Mohammad Kazemi, Armed Forces Chief Mohammad Bagheri, among others, had stunned Tehran's military elite. And now the pictures of that defense system intercepted. IDF strikes Iran's missile launch pads. This is... Let me go across to Nick, our colleague joining us live from Tel Aviv. Nick, we've seen earlier and once again Israeli air forces currently attacking key military targets of Iranian regime in Tehran area. It's very clear, Nick, that this is a calculated attack. Also now the supreme leader Khamenei also being on the watch out here after the main military commanders of the Iranian forces have been wiped out by the Israelis.
Yes, that's right. Israel understands from its experience in the past years fighting against different regimes in the Middle East that one of the things that the leaders of those terrorist countries understand is if their life is in danger. If they become targets themselves, maybe then they think twice before they continue to terrorize Israeli civilians. And that's why Israel now doing. They're showing to the leaders of Iran, you could be next. No one is off limits. And maybe this will de-escalate the situation because Iran understands they can't harm too much Israel. Their potential of the ballistic missiles is almost wiping out. They don't have too much power anymore because Israel continue to destroy their rockets, and Israel controls the airspace. And now Israel needs to take a decision if it's good for them to continue to try to destroy the nuclear sites of Iran and even maybe other sites like their oil infrastructure and also maybe some military and governmental targets. Or maybe it's better now for Israel to look to end this cycle of violence, because if the United States is not joining Israel, they don't have enough power by themselves to destroy all the underground facilities where Iran's striving to develop nuclear weapons with which they are threatening to destroy the Jewish land, the Jewish country. and Israel needs here the help of the United States with the
That's right.
super
Nick,
bombs, the big bombs to penetrate
Nick,
those
it's very clear
sites.
Israel has targeted key sites of Ayatollah regime in Iran, and this is a very clear direct warning from Tehran. Iran's foreign ministry has said any American intervention in the ongoing conflict with Israel would be a recipe for an all-out war in the region. This is the big breaking news coming in. The statement which is coming in from Iran's foreign ministry says Israeli warplanes continue to strike key nuclear military sites in and around Tehran, but any American intervention in the ongoing conflict with Israel would be a recipe for an all-out war in the region. In fact, Iran launched hundreds of missiles and drones at Israel. Casualties reported on both sides. Tensions are now at a flashpoint with the United States ramping up its military presence in the region. Iran gives out that warning from Tehran. Iran's foreign ministry says intervention from America in this conflict would be a recipe for an all-out war. We're also going to try and get an understanding. First, listen into that reaction coming in from the Iranian spokesperson.
American intervention would be a recipe for an all-out war in the region with very, very bad consequences for the whole international community. I think any American intervention would be a recipe for an all-out war in the region with very, very bad consequences for the whole international community.
Breaking news coming in, Indian students who were struck in war-torn Iran are being flown from Armenia to New Delhi. The Indian students currently on the way, and this is the big breaking news coming in, Indian students who are being evacuated from Iran. Israel had struck on Iranian oil and India is getting back its Indian students. They are flying in from Armenia to New Delhi. So the Indian students making their way to New Delhi being evacuated by India from Armenia to the capital. We're also going to try and get you more details on that. I also want to tell you, meanwhile, a few students who are in Tehran University of Medical Sciences are still stuck. They are waiting for an evacuation.
हेलो एवरीवन, हम लोग तेहरान यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ मेडिकल साइंसेज के स्टूडेंट्स हैं और इस टाइम पे यहाँ पे जो ये वॉर सिचुएशन चल रही है, हम लोगों को तेहरान यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ मेडिकल साइंसेज उन्होंने हमें यहाँ पे सेफर लोकेशन पे वो हमें लेकर आए हैं, लेकिन अभी तक एम्बेसी का कोई भी वो लोग हमें इवैक्यूएट नहीं कर रहे हैं। हम लोग कब से उनके साथ कॉन्टैक्ट करने की कोशिश करें, बट उनका कोई भी रिस्पॉन्स हमें अभी तक नहीं आया है। हमारी दोनों की दोनों डॉर्मेटरीज, बॉयज़ डॉर्मेटरी और गर्ल्स डॉर्मेटरी डिस्ट्रॉय हो चुकी है। हम लोग अभी ट्रॉमेटाइज सिचुएशन में है। हम लोग बहुत टाइम से, पिछले 5 दिनों से हम लोग एक्सप्लोजन्स पे एक्सप्लोजन्स देखे जा रहे हैं। हम रातों को, हम लोगों को नींद नहीं आती है, रातों को पूरी फुल नाइट हम लोगों को ऊपर से एक्सप्लोजन्स होते रहते हैं। हम लोग लिटरली बिल्कुल भी सो नहीं पाए। हम लोगों को बहुत ट्रॉमेटाइज्ड इस टाइम पे सिचुएशन है। हम लोग यहाँ पे हम लोगों को यूनिवर्सिटी ने सेफर लोकेशन पे सिर्फ हम लोग को यूनिवर्सिटी लेकर आई है। एम्बेसी ने एम्बेसी के साइड से अभी कोई भी जवाब एम्बेसी की साइड से अभी तक नहीं आ रहा है। प्लीज हम लोग आप लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट करें कि प्लीज फॉर गॉड सेक हमें यहाँ से इवैक्यूएट करने की, प्लीज हम इवैक्यूएट करें यहाँ से। हम लोग यहाँ पे इतनी सारी प्रॉब्लम्स हमें हो रही है, वो प्रॉब्लम्स देखेगा कौन?
We get your reports from Tel Aviv now by my colleague Nick, who's going to tell us how there have been also destructions in Tel Aviv. Israel's ongoing military strikes continue in Iran. Iran has also escalated this further by once again being on the offensive and also having strikes in Tel Aviv. Take a look at these reports.
Here behind me you can see the residential area in the center of Israel, and one of the ballistic missiles of Iran targeted this area where there is a schools, kindergartens, many residential buildings, and see what a huge hole just one rocket did. You can see the impact just of one rocket. See how big is that? And there are 10 buses here which were completely destroyed by this rocket, and in those buses each morning children are taken to the school, and you can see it is completely destroyed. You can see the destruction. And if the children was here now, they probably all would be dead. And this is what Iran is doing. They are targeting those kind of places where residential places are, where there's so many infrastructure, public places, regular people are living here. And you can see the destruction, how many of the buses were destroyed completely. And now some Jewish Orthodox Jews came here to cheer up the people of Israel. They probably want to say to them that God with us, with Israel, this is the promised land, and Israel will prevail. And you can see what a huge damage to all those buses, 10 buses, each of them with about 70 or even more places. And those buses at this hour, when the rockets strike, usually taking children to the kindergartens and to the schools. But because Israel declared a military situation, emergency situation, the kindergarten, schools and workplaces are not open, and that's why there were no one here, no children. And this is a miracle that no one was killed from this ballistic attack by Iran. But you can understand what a huge disaster that could be. Nicole Yochin, center of Israel.
And there's breaking news that's coming in. A strong message from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declaring Iran must not be allowed to acquire nuclear weapons. He is calling Tehran the world's most dangerous regime. Netanyahu said Israel will do whatever it takes to prevent it from gaining what he called the world's most dangerous weapons. Take a look. This is the big breaking news that's coming in at the top of this hour. A strong message is now coming in as the war has escalated. He says Benjamin Netanyahu making the stand clear, calling Tehran the world's most dangerous regime, stating that they will not let the most dangerous regime have the world's most dangerous weapons. Our top focus viewers, tragedy also strikes Diu as the Air India AI-171 crash claimed 7 lives. Among the dead, Ajay Ramesh, whose brother Vishwas was the lone survivor. What was meant to be a joyful reunion ended in heartbreak.
Seven bodies of victims of the tragic Air India AI-171 crash in Ahmedabad brought back to Diu. Tears, heartbreak and disbelief fill the air as families bid farewell to their loved ones. Among the mourners was Vishwas Ramesh Kumar, the lone survivor of the crash. He stands beside the body of his younger brother Ajay Ramesh, who was on the same ill-fated flight. The brothers boarded the flight together, a split-second decision, a cruel twist of fate. Vishwas lived, Ajay did not. Vishwas had flown in from UK to attend a family function. What was meant to be a reunion turned into a moment of unbearable loss. For Vishwas, survival comes at a painful cost, returning home alive, only to carry his brother to his final resting place. The Air India AI-171 crash has left a permanent scar on this quiet coastal town.
More details coming in now on the murder of Indore-based businessman Raja Raghuvanshi. The Meghalaya police has intensified its probe. The team reached Indore to trace the movements of prime accused Sonam Raghuvanshi, who was arrested in Uttar Pradesh.
in the ongoing murder investigation of Indore-based businessman Raja Raghuvanshi. The Meghalaya police reached a flat in Madhya Pradesh's Sindoor. This is where prime accused Sonam Raghuvanshi is suspected to have hidden after her husband's death. She later went to Uttar Pradesh where she was arrested. The police visited the flat in Devas Naka area of the city to connect the dots in the case and recorded statements of Raja Raghuvanshi's family members.
राजा रघुवंशी मर्डर मिस्ट्री में नए नए खुलासे हो रहे हैं। वहीं दूसरी तरफ शिलोंग पुलिस 2 दिन से इंदौर में डेरा डाले हुए है। कल शिलोंग पुलिस जो है राजा के घर पर बयान लेने गई थी और आज आप तस्वीरें देखिए, सोनम रघुवंशी के घर बयान लेने पूछताछ करने शिलोंग पुलिस पहुंची हुई है। ये आप तस्वीरें देख रहे हैं। शिलोंग पुलिस के साथ खुद सोनम के भाई गोविंद भी हैं और शिलोंग पुलिस के जो पुलिसकर्मी हैं, जो इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग ऑफिसर हैं, उनसे हम बात करने की कोशिश करेंगे। सर, आप लोग किसके बयान लेना है? सर, किसके बयान लेना है?
हम लोग हम लोग स्टेटमेंट लेना है, प्लीज स्टेटमेंट।
तो देखिए, शिलोंग पुलिस के जो जवान हैं, जो पुलिसकर्मी हैं, वो देखिए सोनम के घर में अंदर इंटर करते हुए यहाँ पर सोनम के परिवार के बयान होंगे, खासकर गोविंद के बयान होंगे, सोनम की मां के बयान होंगे, क्योंकि कई तरह के सवाल खड़े हो रहे हैं। एक सवाल ये भी खड़ा हो रहा है कि सोनम के भाई का हवाला से कनेक्शन था। इसके अलावा कई और चीजें, ये भी एक कहानी सामने आ रही है। एक खबर है कि सोनम की मां को सब कुछ पता था। इन्हीं सब पहलुओं पर इन्वेस्टिगेट करने के लिए शिलोंग पुलिस जो है वो यहाँ पर सोनम के घर पहुंची हुई है। अब यहाँ पर पूछताछ होगी, बयान लिए जाएंगे, उसके आधार पर आगे की कार्रवाई पुलिस करेगी।
This comes a day after the police recreated the crime scene in presence of Sonam Raghuvanshi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi was spotted sharing a light-hearted moment with French President Emmanuel Macron. Many such moments from the G7 are going viral on social media. We'll tell you about them on Trending at 7:30. Not just that, we'll also get you the latest from West Asia as Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei says that Iran is not going to surrender and warns US also of dire consequences. What will happen next? We get you an expert insight. All that and more with me, Rakshita Mishra, on Trending tonight.
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल, ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े, क्या निराला MDH मसाला।
विमल में गुलिस्तां के ये कुछ लजीज फरिश्ते जब साथ घुलें तो जी लग जाए और दिल कहे कि स्वाद की सुबह में खुद को ऐसे डुबाऊं कि निकल ना पाऊं। विमल की जुबान कुछ है ही ऐसी, मानते हैं? विमल, बोलो जुबान कैसी?
The Iran-Israel conflict has flared up in earnest. What we saw initially was the good cop, bad cop routine in which the United States was playing the good cop by engaging Iran in talks, and all the while Israel was giving threats of taking military action, strong military action to destroy the nascent Iranian nuclear capability. In fact, this good cop, bad cop routine was used to achieve surprise. Iran thought that one day before the talks were scheduled between America and Iran, Israel would not strike, but it did, and it caught a lot of the top Iranian military leadership together huddled in conferences, etc., and was able to do a fair amount of damage. So far, what has the Israeli strategy been? The Israeli strategy has been to carry out a surgical strike against Iran's nuclear capability, nascent nuclear capability. To that extent, it has hit Natanz, the nuclear enrichment site. It has hit many weapon fabrication laboratories and other experimental laboratories in close by around Tehran complex. It has also primarily hit at command and control targets. It has eliminated a large number of Iranian senior military officials, which include the head of the IRGC, the head of the Iranian army, head of the Iranian Air Force, and their chief of intelligence. Now, these are very severe losses in terms of leadership. Command and control attrition has been highly effective to the extent that Iran has now ordered that none of its top commanders will be carrying mobiles, because they have been tracked through their mobiles and hit with great amount of precision. To start with, the Israelis had carried out massive standoff attacks with about 200 of their F-35 stealth fighters, F-15E Eagle jet fighters. These had fired cruise missiles, standoff cruise missiles, without entering Iranian territory. In the phase 1, they had carried out SEAD, suppression of enemy air defenses, in which they had knocked off the S-300 missile batteries of Iran, which have not proved very effective. Let's not forget that even in Pakistan, the S-300 equivalent, the Chinese HQ-9 and 16 were also proved to be highly ineffective. So they have suppressed Iran's air defenses, and they have now gone in a very big way to tackle the targets they have designated, namely command and control attrition, 2, enrichment facilities, nuclear fabrication plants, workshops, and research facilities. They have also gone in for hitting the energy infrastructure, and they have largely hit the storage for local in-house consumption, because should they go for Iran's export, that will be regime threatening, life threatening for Iran, and it could force Iran to widen the conflict by spreading the war to the Middle East, as I shall recount in detail later. For the time being, this has been the Israeli strategy: precision strikes, standoff strikes, and they have been fairly successful. Iran has retaliated by firing off its hypersonic ballistic missiles, and these have managed to penetrate the layered air defenses of Israel's Iron Dome, right? The Iron Dome, as this is a layered air defense of 4 layers. The closest layer is the Iron Dome itself, 50 to 60 kilometers, normally used against rockets and mortar bombs and things like that, which is a tactical in-house defense. Then comes the David Sling, which is medium range.
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hello and welcome. You're watching the Wednesday edition of This Is Exclusive with me, Shavin Sen. For the longest time, it was a shadow war between Israel and Iran. Now it's turned out to be a wider conflict. How exactly will this really settle, or will it settle at all? Tonight on This Is Exclusive, only Indian News Network getting you reports from both sides, Iran as well as Israel. Our top focus on the wider conflict between Iran and Israel. But up first, let me take you through the headlines we're tracking at this hour.